Board of Trustees for the Village of Chestnut Ridge. Trustee Valentine had called, he was gonna be a little delayed, he should be, he is on the way. Again, thank you for coming out this evening, hope everyone, made it through the storms relatively unscathed. The storm just, most recent one obviously wasn't as bad as they had anticipated, which was good. Still, there were people that had to deal with it, and hopefully everybody worked out well. The storm before, we had some issues with Orange and Rockland, as I'm sure everybody has read now about their website services and telling people when service was going to be restored and stuff like that. I did send a letter on behalf of the village to the Public Service Commission, Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe, Senator David Carlucci, and my contact over at Orange and Rockland, again voicing our dissatisfaction as to the way things were handled, and my suggestions as far as to the Public Service Commission when they revisit rates and penalties and things of that nature. So that letter did go out on behalf of the village. And in addition, talking of letters, I had mentioned a couple times about letters that we had sent out previously to East Ramapo School Board and Ramapo PD with regard to speeding buses not being maintained properly, things of that nature. Another letter went out again to East Ramapo School Board and to our community liaison over at Ramapo PD, again articulating the comments that we've been getting again on a regular basis with regard to the buses and traffic laws and things of that nature. Last meeting, we had a particular request with regard to a property over at 8 Hamilton, with regard to a fence being partially down, panels missing, and apparently an in-ground pool that was alleged to have been exposed, being open. The code enforcement official went over there to visit. He confirmed that the fact that the pool has been secured and it is not a safety hazard as he's been able to see. In addition, the fencing was removed temporarily as there was some construction going on the property, and that, however, has been remedied. So that was from our meeting last go around. I had my Sundays with the mayor for March. Again, it was very quiet, but I was there. There will not be a Sunday with the mayor for April. However, April 15th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. will be the annual shredding day. That will be hosted right here in the parking lot. The costs are being defrayed 100% by PAR Pharmaceutical, who's been sponsoring us the past couple of years. Every year we've had it, they've been there to sponsor us. So again, we extend our thanks to PAR, now a subsidiary of Endo, for their continued support of the community. There will be an extra garbage pickup on Friday, March the 30th. IWS or Garbage Carter will be making arrangements to pick up the entire village on that day at no additional cost to the village. And again, we thank IWS for their support of the community and doing what they're doing for us. In addition, note for scheduling purposes, our next board meeting is going to end up being April 26th, not the 19th. So again, the next public board meeting here is going to be April 26th. Our workshop has not changed. That is still on April the 11th. Okay. That having been said, as far as housekeeping and some scheduling, calendaring matters, our next event would be the approval of the February.
Now it's the open public.
I'm sorry. The discussion on the agenda items. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak on the agenda, now's the time.
On any agenda item?
On the agenda items, Mr. Lieberson, please name and address for the record.
Okay, Jerry Lieberson, 31 Midway Road.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. So I've looked at the revised text of the parade permit law,
Yes.
and I have some remarks about it. It is completely unacceptable to me that you have chosen to still omit any required period of time for advance notification to residents. Moreover, it was mentioned at the workshop last week that even police presence might not be required. That it would be up to Rampo Police to decide based on the information they are given, which could be completely misrepresented. The result is that residents may still wake up one day and suddenly find their streets are blocked off for a religious celebration, and worse, that a private religious security force may be entirely in charge. You are doing nothing to address the outrage that occurred on July 2nd of last year on Spring Hill Terrace. It could therefore happen again somewhere else, and whatever unfortunate consequences result from that will be entirely on the hands of this board if you enact that law as it is written now. Is it any agenda item, or should I come back for other agenda items?
Any agenda item, yeah.
Actually, okay, I guess it's not an agenda item. I'll speak at the...
Thank you. Mr. Lieberson, you were at the workshop, you heard the village attorney reflect on all the comments that were gathered from the last meeting, the constitutional ramifications, the ability to have persons to exercise their constitutional right with regard to various functions, religious or not religious, public, whatever the case may be. The attorney for the village, I believe, is a little bit more of an expert on constitutional law and what requirements of the village than, with all due respect to you, Mr. Lieberson. Your assessment that you object to, and that you feel that anything that happens is on the hands of the village. You're right. We're responsible for what goes on in the village. However, the law is the law. This is a law that we are establishing now. We haven't had a law since 1986 addressing to the degree that we're addressing it now. Will it maybe be tweaked down the road? It's possible. If it doesn't have to be, that's fine. If it does, it will be. But we are not going to be in a position of drafting a law that is going to restrict or bind anyone's constitutional rights. The fact that you don't appreciate religious services going on in your neighborhood, that's your opinion, and that's your right to feel that way. However, this parade law does not deal with only religious activities. It deals with other activities, whether it be a 5K run, whether it be a block party, any other function that, again, after a proper permit, after proper review by the Ramapo Police Department. I am not going to supersede the Ramapo Police Department as far as what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. I will defer to the police department as far as security and things of that nature. I do appreciate the fact that you are concerned with how this parade and special event law will be enforced. And I assure you, we will audit it as the permits start to come in and how things happen. Okay.
May I just have one follow-up remark?
Go right ahead, Mr. Lewis.
At this point, my main bother is that there is no specific period of advance notification.
So noted, and it has been noted in the law.
That's outrageous.
And we've noted in the law, the notice requirements that we feel is fair and reasonable within the confines of the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state of New York. Thank you for we thank you for your input with regard to the law. Anything else on the agenda? Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Chris Mallory. I live at 7 Imperial Lane.
Good evening, Mr. Mallory.
I just want to say regarding this parade law, I live on a dead-end street, so there's no way at all for me if the parade should be held on my street that we can get into or out of there. Again, I wanted to back up Jerry and say that I think at a minimum that we ought to have some kind of stipulated notification. That's only fair to those of us who live on the streets that may be used.
Mr. Mallory, did you read the law?
Yes.
There's a notice requirement in there.
All right.
No, there is not.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you.
No, I read.
Excuse me, Mr. Lieberson. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, good evening, Sabrina Martin, 2 Alma Road.
Good evening, Ms. Martin.
I have some questions about the parade law.
Sure.
Your address again, please.
Yeah, it's not here.
2 Alma Road. Can you hear me? No, the mic is off? Oh. So, hello?
Why is it off?
I don't know. Hello?
Try it again.
Hello? Oh, so, okay.
Florence is such a techie.
Alrighty. I don't know too much about the law, I just understand parades in general.
Yeah.
And I know particularly in this village, when there were parades, it usually was in an area that was more open, like a park or a major street. When it comes to the residential areas, as noted by one of the neighbors who had expressed concerns about not being able to leave her home of residence and having company come into the home of residence, my concern would be the same, whether I get 10-day notice, 20-day notice. If the parade is in an area where people are living, and it says here that no person shall drive any vehicle in the parade area, how would we address that? Like you have mentioned block parties. Usually when there's a block party, it's everyone on the block that's participating in the block party. You know, in certain situations, it may not necessarily be everyone in that residential area that's participating in the parade if that parade is blocking off that particular residential area. So for those people who aren't participating because they're not observing that particular event, how would they be able to resolve getting in and out of their home? So, I mean, that's the question. And I'm wondering if the answer would be something whereby there would be certain areas that would not be allowed to be blocked off for a parade, if that area does not allow for an alternative egress for people who are not participating.
Depending on the event, Ms. Martin will determine exactly the type of access or limited access that may result in that neighborhood. I have found, historically speaking, since everyone seems to be picking on the Torah parades, that those parades usually will pass by in 5 or 10 minutes in a particular section of the neighborhood. So you're absolutely right. For 5 or 10 minutes, you may not be able to go into your driveway. You'll have to wait at the end of the parade, and then as soon as the parade passes, you will be allowed to go into your driveway. So, depending on the event, depending on when it's taking place, depending on what the Ramapo Police Department will determine as far as what's going to be safe, that will determine the access. Okay, now, you are not going to be prevented from going to your home. You're not being locked out of your home. You're not being told you can't go into your home. Okay? This is a prophylactic measure so that, if anything, the sponsors of the parade know what their responsibilities are to the village and to the community. So it's out in the open to say that this is the notice, reasonable notice, which is in bold print in the law, that needs to, Mr. Mallory, please. There is a notice requirement in the law that says a minimum notice will be required because it depends on the type of event that it is. And the sponsor is going to be responsible to do that. And we will follow up with that. Okay? So, the bottom line is, this is something that's supposed to benefit the community. This is something that is supposed to be something available to the community that is their right to do and is their right to have, however, within certain parameters. So that, again, that they do respect their neighbors and that they respect what's going on. So, this is not going to be something where I anticipate that you're not going to be able to go in and out of your home. That Fireman's Parade was a wonderful event. It was a wonderful event. But for about an hour and a half, there were certain people that could not have gone into their driveways or into their homes. Not one person complained to me about that. Not one person complained to me about that. So I'm going to presume that so long as the event that's being sponsored is reasonable and that the community's the community ability to understand what's going on and the tolerance that needs to be out there will be there, because we're all good neighbors, and so long as nobody takes advantage of it, I don't think there's going to be a problem.
Well, I just would like to comment that I in particular did not make any reference to any particular parade. So I would like the record to reflect that I am not up here speaking about a particular parade. Like
So
I said, I'm
noted.
not aware of any laws. I'm new at coming to the village meetings. I've never been in a situation where a parade has blocked me from going in and out of my home. So now that I'm attending and I'm aware and I see that there's concerns, and I was present at the other meeting where neighbors were concerned about a particular parade and not being able to function,
Right.
okay? That they didn't say, you know, what the name of the parade was. They were concerned about not being aware that it occurred, okay?
Sure.
And not being able to address the situation accordingly.
And I,
So
do not
that's-
that's
yeah.
not an issue.
Right.
We do not write it.
Right.
That's why the law is there.
Right, a fireman's parade, people probably would know way in advance because that's a public event. So I'm not so sure that's a fair comparison.
Well, it is a fair comparison because the firemen, while they told us in advance that the neighbors did not know until the signs started going up a week or two before. So I would respectfully disagree, but you're entitled to your opinion.
Respectfully disagreeing to what?
As far as the type of notice and it not being analogous to what we're talking about as far as the parade law is concerned.
See, in the past, we never had a parade law, and people would, wanted to have a parade, they get a permit or permission from the police. For years, we had a little league that marched from Schoolhouse Road down Williams to Children's Park. It blocked traffic for a little bit, but, you know, it moves quickly, and, you know, it wasn't until this situation occurred a number of months ago that the village complained that they didn't have notice, that it wasn't as well organized as they would have liked it. So we're enacting a law which is a starting point. If we find it's deficient in any way, we can amend it. But this is a step forward to correcting what people have asked us to do.
To date, we had nothing. Now we have something.
Okay, so, and I appreciate your reference to the other parades, and I'm just asking, I'm answering my own question now, and I'm asking that consideration be made with regards to areas where it would be okay to have a parade and areas where it probably logistically would make sense. Because the parades that we're talking about were, even though some people may have been blocked off, they were on much more public main roads. So when you have someone making reference to a cul-de-sac, things of that nature, I think that logically we should take into consideration what would be feasible, what would be reasonable, and not just leave it up to the discretion of the parade coordinator. Thank you.
I have no argument with that. Thank you. Next, please, name and address for the record.
Magaya GP 49 Spring Hill Terrace. I just wanted to say for the record, I know that you said the Torah education since you referenced that.